We are way overdue for America to pull its involvement in the already catastrophic and tragic conflict on Yemen, being perpetrated mainly by Saudi Arabia, but also a number of allies, unfortunately, including the United States. And thankfully, today we found out that Senator Bernie Sanders, also Mike Lee, Republican, we have to give him credit, and Chris Murphy, along with Representatives Khanna, a friend of the show, and Mark Pocan, are reintroducing their bills in the Senate and the House to pull our involvement in that conflict. Now, if you pay attention to this topic, if you watch this show, you might think, wait, didn't they already get that in the Senate? And it is true that the Senate voted 56-41 back in December to pass a resolution that this same group of senators had pushed for to withdraw US forces in or affecting Yemen, except troops fighting al-Qaeda and associated forces. It was actually the first time a chamber of Congress voted in favor of a war powers resolution since the War Powers Act was passed back in 1973. That historical note left in case Michael Shore watches this. But at the time, Republicans still controlled the House, which means that although in effect, very few would go on the record saying they were opposed to this, it was not able to actually get a vote. We did not actually get it at that point. Thankfully, the midterms happened, and now we have a Democratic control of the House, and so we have another chance to actually make this happen. So if this bill is passed, what will it do? It would direct the president to withdraw US forces in or affecting hostilities in Yemen in the first 30 days, again, unless they are fighting al-Qaeda or associated forces. But now it has been strengthened to include defining hostilities as including aerial refueling of non-US aircraft conducting missions in the civil war. Now, according to the US military, they are no longer conducting this, they say. But Ken Klippenstein of TYT Investigates has done some digging around and shown that we are still very much involved in the Air Force of Saudi Arabia, doing not only training for some of the affiliated forces working with them, but also providing maintenance for those planes as well. I would like to see all of that included in this bill. Not doing the aerial refueling is a good thing, but if we are still making it possible for the Saudi Air Force to operate, to bomb indiscriminately the civilians of Yemen, then we bear moral responsibility for the outcomes of those actions. And we can't hide behind the fact that we're no longer pumping gas into the plane in the air. If we're involved, and hopefully that will be a part of this. A couple of quotes from those trying to push this through in the Senate. Senator Bernie Sanders says, "Today we are coming together to address one of the great humanitarian crises facing the planet, and also in a historic way to make certain that the United States Congress reasserts its constitutional responsibilities in terms of war making. The US should not be supporting a catastrophic war led by a despotic Saudi regime with a dangerous and irresponsible military policy." Also, quote, bringing up a very good point that I believe has been unfortunately moved on from by most of the media. Representative Chris Murphy said, "The reason Trump administration officials present to us that we should continue our support for this bombing campaign is that the Saudis are an ally. What kind of ally kidnaps a resident of your country who is seeking our protection, brings him into a consulate, chops him up and makes him disappear? The nature of this alliance has been exposed." So it is very good to hear Jamal Khashoggi and the tragedy of his murder being talked about. Seemed like a big story. There were no consequences. Donald Trump got away with doing nothing about it, and unfortunately much of the country has moved on. But thankfully there are those in the Senate and the House that are trying to make something happen, not directly as a result of that, but certainly affiliated with that tragic story. Now, we have gone over the numbers many times. If you are a devoted listener of the show, you're already familiar with the tragedy in Yemen, but I do want to just remind you of a few of the things going on for the people living there. This infographic put together by the Office of the DNI showing there that of a total population of 28.7 million people in Yemen as of back in December of last year, 22.2%, a gigantic percentage, are in need of some humanitarian assistance. You can see that more than half of the population lacks access to drinking water and sanitation. Virtually the same number are severely food insecure, meaning that there is both famine and lack of access to water. You can see there are millions of people at emergency levels right now. There is over 1 million cases of suspected cholera, diphtheria, millions of people being displaced from their homes inside of Yemen. This tragedy is only getting worse the longer it goes on. To whatever extent the US can use its influence to do something about this, we are long overdue to actually accomplish that. And by the way, on top of all of those numbers, we do have to bear in mind the number who have already lost their lives. Estimates vary between 13,500 to 80,000. Of course, it is very difficult to even verify those numbers because of the instability and the situation in Yemen right now. So hopefully they're successful in the Senate and House side in getting this passed and forcing Donald Trump to sign it. Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.